Hi, Mark.
Hi,
So good to have you on the show. Thank you for coming on.
thank you. It's my pleasure. I'm glad to connect with you.
Oh, especially right now, it just feels like it's such a wild time for so many of us. I couldn't think of someone better to talk to in this moment than you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's an interesting time, and it started with this moment of unity in a time of division, and it's kind of shifted into a space of those who are desperate to remain unconscious, racing for a sense of normality, and otherwise, it's the acceptance of this time being about change, and to dive deep and to really unroot the things that aren't serving us anymore and let them come to light and to allow something different to happen. But it's seeing the commonality in these experiences where stuff is coming up for people with our patterns being interrupted and just seeing how that's going for everyone, you know?
Wow. When I feel into the idea of change and like what is ahead, I feel really excited. I had this
Mhm.
moment yesterday where I was kind of dancing around the house and just kind of felt this giddy energy of, I don't know what's coming, of course, but
Mhm.
I have this sense that it's going to be this really fabulous, wonderful new world that we're really emerging into. And
Mhm.
I feel really excited about that.
I do too. And it's a matter of just seeing, we're creating the future right now. And with the future, we could see just this really, really lovely space of expansion and truth. And what I suspect anyone listening to your show would be inclined to align with is that space of not holding on to the past and to recognizing what is here for us right now. And very simply, for anyone with a spiritual inclination to lead. And we lead by holding a very high vibration and having a vision for the future, to recognize we're heading towards something good, which is unifying, as opposed to this continuation of division and fear and greed.
Seems like a place where the pendulum is starting to shift, and
Yeah.
the light workers, and like you said, the spiritually minded, the spiritually gifted are rising up and taking more of a prominent place, a leadership role in our
Mhm.
world. What are you sensing on as a intuitive on the plane of kind of the angels and the guides in terms of what they're saying, what they're seeing with all of this?
Well, they're calm. you know,
Imagine that.
they're not freaking out. They're not worried. And what has come through is I've made it a goal because I got this guidance months ago of like, this is the time to lead. And when all this started to happen, I also got guided to like get my Zoom universe in order and all this stuff. So it's interesting when all this happened, I could hit the ground running with, doing events on Zoom. So I've done something every single day, had an event every single day. And in these held spaces and just seeing what comes up and what their guidance is to stand tall, to really have a high vibration, but to hold a very strong vision for the future of where we're heading and to not be so bothered by folks who are having a different experience. We do live in the era of choose your truth, that we could tap into any truth that you want. But if we could see the overall truth of humanity right now during this period of time, including the pandemic, including before then, which is all the trauma of humanity coming to the surface to be healed, all of that ugliness coming up, and we have more ways to heal that than ever before. But to recognize there's something happening for us to purge all this fear, to purge the trauma, to heal the trauma, and to emerge from that feeling good and having a sense of wholeness within ourselves. So that has been their point of view, to really have a high vibration. In We did a group on Sunday, and what the angels guide us to do was to feel yourself being 100 feet tall and noticing everyone else doing the same work that you're doing, which is millions of people, united in prayer and intention, and just standing tall and just feeling that sense of sight. But the main thing in that would feel like, there's lots of people having different opinions and such, to perhaps not be so bothered by what other people are doing and to trust our own truth. And if that is staying inside for a prolonged period of time, let's do that. Whatever feels right for us, you know?
And what's your sense about why it can be so jarring to see people out in the world who have a very different viewpoint than, say, many of us?
That it feels like a threat because there is an aggressiveness to those stances and such. And we live in a challenging time within the, as mentioned, the choose your truth era of just misinformation being so prevalent, you know. And it's jarring for all of us on a archetypal level to have leadership that we don't trust, you know, and that just hits everyone on a different level, no matter what your political belief is, to recognize that this person in charge does not care about you or is not thinking about you. That undercuts our confidence. So, but we're witnessing true leadership in certain governors, in the Queen of England, you know, people like that who are actually leading. And what that leadership might sound like is, hey, we're going through this, it's going to be okay. We're going to emerge on the other side of this. And let's stay strong together, as opposed to like, it's over, do what you want, you know? So this adolescent point of view, but we could recognize the adult voice always, and that voice of authenticity.
Can you say more about the adult voice? I haven't really
Sure.
gotten to that on the show yet, but
Okay.
what parts of ourselves? We got the inner child and the inner critic and the
Mhm.
adult. Let's go there for a minute.
Sure. Well, we all have, mostly, we all have, not everyone does, but an adult self, an adolescent self, and a child self. And the child self especially has three different components to it. And we all have very diverse, but archetypally. So I'm talking to, the Melanie I'm talking to is your adult self. And why I know this is your adult self is because you're gathering information. And as our adult selves, we gather information and then make informed choices based on that information. So we make the world big, and then we make a choice with discernment and such. And the adolescent, we live in a very adolescent country, and we're really witnessing that right now. And what that would mean is most things are an emotional decision. Most things are based in kind of a gut instinct, like, I want to do this. And this sense of opposition being present, like, don't tell me what to do. And we witness that perhaps most clearly in dating and romance, where we get attached to the emotion and there's a big story around it, you know. And that's where most people live with romance. There's very few examples, I would say, of adult romance in, you know, that is displayed to us. Most romance in movies and TV, which is where we learn how to do this, is adolescent based, but there's not a lot of talking and such. So, and with this, where we witness it is in just decision making mainly, but this sense of there's a narcissism to the adolescent, you know, having your needs met all the time. And then in the child self, and we all have a wounded child self, we all have that. So the three aspects of the child self are the wounded child, which hangs out essentially by your right hip. There's the defiant child, which we're hearing a lot of recently, which is, you know, to your left a bit. And that's the part of you that tells you that you suck, and the part of you that tells you that other people suck too. So we're all used to that voice. And then in front of us is the compliant child, which is your social face, the you who gets by in the world. And we're all used to having that certain social face, how we just very simply present ourselves to fit in and such. Yeah.
How
So
does
that's the
working
basic
with
layout. Hmm?
mm,
Go ahead.
how does working with the angels and the guides help bring in this inner child and these different components into our wholeness so that we can lead from our spiritually awakened selves, as opposed to some other kind of defiant, or like you said, other part of ourself?
Hmm. That's a great question. How spiritual work helps with that is in the discernment, very simply, of who's doing what. For the most part, most people don't have the discernment between those aspects of themselves, and everything's kind of balled together in a space of emotion, and we can't discern that. And if we add to that, for all the empaths that'll listen to your show, which I'm sure are most people, then we have other people's energy piled on top of that. And so what we can do spiritually is to recognize what is your adult self, which is the part of you who will engage with spirituality, who will want to gather information. And that quest comes from, any spiritual practice emerges from suffering or insight. For most people, it's suffering. but it's so that kernel of thought is there's more to life than this. And so that adult who emerges from that of like, okay, what is actually happening here? How does this whole thing work with angels and guides? How does spirituality work? How does mastery work? What is the divine feminine? What is the divine masculine? Those inquiries get into a space of expansion. And then we seek outside of our common knowledge or given knowledge. And so that is a space where through those goals, that aspiration, we can connect, let's say, with angels and with guides. And they help us to discern that and to break things down in terms of what is an emotional response? What is an adolescent reaction as opposed to an adult response? And that's the key space where we could see it, is how we react to things or respond to things.
I love that. These are the waters that I just so enjoy swimming in. I feel like tracking what part of us is showing up to any given moment is such
Mm-hmm.
a rich experience, such really an intimate dive, an intimate relationship that we get to build with ourselves. And
Yeah.
I know what I see working with my clients is that so many women are lacking some sort of connection to this part of themselves, this real
Mm-hmm.
intimacy. And then they're seeking that in a partner, thinking that will somehow bring that piece in that they know is like something's missing or
Yeah.
not quite right, or why can't I get relationships to work? And they think it's outside of them. But what I'm really hearing you say is it's really this inner world, this inner landscape, this inner relationship that is so important that the angels help support.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I want to clarify with talking about angels that it's not a woo-woo space, it's a practical space. And our bodies respond instantly to that kind of connection. But what I notice with what you're talking about is when we, let's say, pray or work with angels and such, or both, our bodies relax. And that's a fascinating space because our bodies are hardwired for spiritual work. And within this of how we truly access it is the free will choice to make the world bigger, to let more happen, to let our choices expand.
Mm. Yes, and our energy, as we actually feel wider, we can then tap into that with what I perceive to be is more readiness, more ease, and then it all just unfolds from there.
Right. Yeah. I think it's worth saying the key wound that we all have is insignificance and unworthiness, the idea that we just don't matter and that other people are in charge, mainly men, mainly a guy, and that we suck. And the opposite is true. It is that we are taught that as a disempowerment, and it's been pounded upon or compounded upon multiple times over the centuries. And it's up to us right now to recognize that there's a different choice. And if we disengage from that belief of insignificance and recognize that uh, our thoughts and words do matter, our aspirations and dreams do matter, and it's safe for us to stand tall with while being connected and to visualize, to speak into being what we want. And if that's a change of heart, if that is a sense of value, if that is manifesting the relationship that you want, all those things are on the table with that.
Oh, that feels so good. Yes. It's that claiming. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like what I'm really
Mm-hmm.
hearing is to one, get in touch with what we really desire, and then to
Yeah.
claim that to the world, to the angels, to everything, everyone, and every moment that matters and that it deserves to matter.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And if we talk about the additional core wound, it is the idea that someone else is in charge, and mainly a guy, and mainly perhaps, let's say, the idea of a vengeful God, which doesn't exist. But that kind of idea that someone else is in charge and that we don't matter and we're kind of clocking time, none of which is true. And if we could see the actual truth of ourselves, which is that we're driving our own car and that we have a whole lot of help, that we are choosing our existence, and we just have this immense reservoir and of support with angels and guides and each other
One of
and
the things
wisdom.
I've noticed in working with you over the years, it's
Yeah.
probably been about 5 or 6 years now, is how much the angels want to help and how much they're there.
Yeah.
But we have to ask, right?
Free will really matters. They will intervene if need be. And if we tap into the amount of information they give us as reminders, as guidance, it's never overwhelming. But very simply, they will, through a song, through a license plate saying 444, through a billboard with some word on it that you've been thinking about, that they will get our attention. But the strongest thing we can do is to contact them first. And perhaps in the morning, thank you, angels, for being with me. Thank you for this wonderful day. Thank you for my interactions, all being positive. Anything you want me to know? So we get into conversation with them and such. I think it's worth talking just for a moment here about randomness, which has a great role in spirituality, which perhaps we could steer away from, which is something will happen, like, let's say we get an intuitive hit on something, and we want to contextualize that as like, oh, that was really random. Oh, that was weird and such, and that it's fleeting as opposed to cultivated. And this is something that we can do, and this is the goal of my work, was to build this muscle around intuition. So it is natural. And I think that's perhaps something you've witnessed in doing this work for a while, is that muscle at work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I woke up this morning and I had a moment like that, and I felt so supported and held. And it was really the moment I opened my eyes. I had a flash and I asked the angels, and there it was. It becomes second nature, I'll say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So comforting. I know that personally I've had long bouts with feelings of loneliness or abandonment issues or things that I've had to overcome in the past. And one of the most comforting presences in my life in those moments has been the angels, knowing
Mm-hmm.
they're there, knowing that I can reach out to them, that they want to help, they want to love, they want to hold, they want to support. And we don't ever have to truly feel alone, or like there's just a bunch of random things going on in our world. And I'm some person walking the earth with no connection or no ability to feel connection. And in fact, that is exactly the opposite of what is true.
That's very, very well said. Yeah.
Wasn't really helpful. Like, I had a ghost in my apartment last year, or spirit,
right.
I'll say, and I called
Yeah.
you.
Right.
I'm like, Mark, I went to bed the second night that I'm sleeping in my new New York City apartment, which was over 100 years old, but it's just new to me. And a man presented himself.
Mm-hmm.
And it freaked me out at first, but then I also thought, okay, I really believe that this is a benevolent force. Let me check in.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I got the download from him that it was, but I wanted your help to be like, I don't really want someone visiting me while I'm sleeping.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And we could point out that it's a ghost is a very rare thing, and that they will find the open door. And this individual knew that you would pay attention, and there it was. There's that conversation, and but it moved. Yes.
Yes.
Once it was heard, it moved. Yeah.
Yeah. And there was nothing to be afraid of, but it's also interesting how the body, my body in particular in that moment, wanted to go to fear.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
But there's such a choice in what I'm hearing from you to really choose something else.
Well, yes. And I think how that manifests is the muscle around this, that if we are indeed, let's say, praying, intending, being mindful with our words and such, it gives a context to life. And this is the thing that human beings do really well with, and we're seeing it with the pandemic, which is when we have a context, like, okay, stay home for 2 months. Okay, here's what we're going to do, that we adjust rapidly, and if we have a context for spirituality, which is, okay, so if I say this angel's name, thank you, Archangel Michael, for being with me, that he'll show up,
Yes.
and that maybe something will come through that's more and more fruitful over time, that we develop this relationship. I do think it's worth saying how simple this connection is, and maybe we could spend just a few minutes just doing some work with that. So we make it user-friendly as opposed to a concept.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's just take in a breath. And if we could all just breathe in for a moment and acknowledge you for taking this time for you, for listening to Melanie's podcast about expansion, about truth. And on our next inhale, if we could breathe in like it's our very first breath. And let's repeat that, just breathing in like it's your first breath. And if we could let that continue, just breathing in like it's your first breath. And just noticing how quickly we could change our focus, how quickly we could relax our bodies. Wonderful. And we'll just continue that pattern of breathing in like it's your first breath. And we'll take a moment just to pray. Thank you, Mother, Father, God. Thank you, archangels and ascended masters, for the perfect guidance, perfect clarity, and perfect clearing that is here for all of us right now. We celebrate this moment of connection. We celebrate the wonderful healing that's here for us right now with each breath. And we celebrate all the goodness on the planet. It's very simply just breathe into all that. And we'll take a moment just to use our free will. And we're going to call in Archangel Michael, who is the angel of protection and clearing. And he could be with every single one of us at once. So if we could just breathe in, and if we could say out loud, thank you, Archangel Michael, for being with me.
Thank you, Archangel Michael, for being with me.
Wonderful. We'll just breathe into that. And whether you feel him, see him, hear him, or know that he's there, let's very simply just acknowledge that our free will is always listened to. And if we could lovingly just say out loud, thank you, Archangel Michael, for clearing my energy.
Thank you, Archangel Michael, for clearing my energy.
Wonderful. We'll just breathe into that. And we'll let Archangel Michael lift off of you anything that no longer serves you, any seeming stress, tension, any fear. And let's let Archangel Michael lift off of you anything that you might consider a problem. Be that 10 problems, 100 problems, 1,000 problems. So any fear around what's happening right now, any concern for your safety or the safety of your loved ones, any concern about people who might need help, who might be recovering or healing, letting him lift off you any concern about people who have passed away, and recognizing a space where they are okay, that they are attended to. Let's let any consternation or fear around politics, around people with different belief systems, letting him lift off of you anything, letting him lift off of you anything that feels like a threat, be that an implied threat or an overt threat. Letting him lift off of you any fear of your environment or the outside world, and giving everything a context. Let's let him lift all of this off of you. Wonderful. We'll just breathe in and we'll let Michael lift all that away. We'll take in a fresh breath. And if we could say out loud, thank you, Archangel Michael, for helping me in every part of my life.
Thank you, Archangel Michael, for helping me in every part of my life.
Fantastic. We'll just breathe in and we'll let him do just that right now. So he's cleared a lot of space. Let's let him fill that space that's been created with unconditional love, with perfect peace, with coherence, with order, and with care. So let's just breathe in and just let him infuse your current environment where you are right now with absolute love, with the energy of encouragement, with peace of mind, with a relaxed body. And if you can notice, once again, whether you feel him, see him, hear him, or know that he's there, just to notice his presence right where you are, which might be a flash, it might be a whisper, it might be a nudge, or it might be something more overt. We are used to the idea that angels are very demonstrative and big and loud. That may not be the case. It may not be, hello, Melanie. It might be more like, hey, Melanie. Remember me?
Hmm.
So let's just breathe into all that. And let's say this out loud. Thank you, Archangel Michael, for individualizing my energy right now.
Thank you, Archangel Michael, for individualizing my energy right now.
Fantastic. We'll just breathe into that. And let's let Archangel Michael perfectly lift off of you and away from you the energy of other people, including people that you're close to, parents, family, children, grandchildren, siblings, spouses, former spouses, girlfriends, boyfriends, all friends, everyone who you know, everyone you work with or have worked with, everyone you've gone to school with, all neighbors, all authority figures on all levels, anyone you encounter. Let's just take in a breath and let Michael lift all their energy off of you and moving it away from you like moving a curtain on a curtain rod. So if we could just breathe in like it's your first breath and recognize what it's like for your body to be your own, for your energy field to be your own, for your thoughts to be your own, for your emotions to be your own. And into that space, let's say our names out loud. I'll demonstrate, then Melanie, you could demonstrate. I am Mark.
I am Melanie.
So breathe in. Let's do that again, just inviting everyone to say your own name out loud. I am. So we mentioned the adult self. Let's feel that it's your adult self saying that. And we'll say that one more time. As your adult self, let's say out loud, I am Mark.
I am Melanie.
I am a conscious adult.
I'm a conscious adult.
And I choose peace.
And I choose peace.
And I choose love.
And I choose love.
I choose to live on a safe planet.
I choose to live on a safe planet.
I choose to live on a unified planet.
I choose to live on a unified planet.
Thank you, Archangel Michael, for protecting me always.
Thank you, Archangel Michael, for protecting me always.
Thank you for my loved ones being protected.
Thank you for my loved ones for being protected.
Thank you for all of humanity and all of life being protected.
Thank you for all of humanity and all of life for being protected.
Wonderful. We'll just breathe into that. Let's just notice what's there. What do you notice actually right now, Melanie?
There's like a halo, a field above me. It just feels so clear and so bright, especially on the left side. So much more space.
Okay, wonderful. And if we could just take in a breath, we could notice what it feels like on your right without calling anything good or bad, just as an observation.
There's a little cloudiness there, but it wants to break through.
So let's just take in a breath. And let's just say out loud, I could see clearly in all directions.
I can see clearly in all directions.
It's safe for me to see.
Ooh, it is safe for me to see.
Does the ooh feel like recognition or an opportunity or some resistance there?
Like I'm ready.
Okay, good. And let's say what you just said. I'm ready to see in all directions.
I'm ready to see in all directions.
Fantastic. We'll just breathe into that and we'll just notice what's here. And what happens there for you?
Oh, it breaks through. It's like a sunrise for the first time on the right side.
Good deal. Are you right-handed or left-handed?
I'm right-handed.
Okay. So this is the side that does stuff, the giving side, and the left being the receptive side for you. So it's safe for you to wave the flag higher. It's safe for your podcast to reach millions of people, trusting the perfect people will engage with it. It's safe for you to thrive. It's safe for you to be seen. Let's say that out loud. It's safe for me to be seen.
It's safe for me to be seen.
I am seen and heard.
I am seen and heard.
Good. Let's just breathe into that. Just encouraging everyone to say those. We'll just say those again and encourage everyone to say them along too. I am seen.
I am seen.
I am heard.
I am heard.
I am visible.
I am visible.
Thank you, Archangel Michael, for seeing me and hearing me.
Thank you, Archangel Michael, for seeing me and hearing me.
Fantastic. We'll just breathe into that. And let's say this out loud. Thank you, Archangel Michael, for surrounding me with 20 feet of unconditional love.
Thank you, Archangel Michael, for surrounding me with 20 feet of unconditional love.
Wonderful. So from the core of your being, from your heart moving out, let's notice 20 feet, which is pretty big, of energy moving away from you, not toward you. But we are establishing and filling the space that we're in right now, be that in a room, be that outside, be that in a car, be that in public, be that in a park, that we're noticing a defined space of 20 feet of unconditional love. And we'll define unconditional love by meaning, we'll define unconditional love as no matter what has happened in your life that you were loved, no matter what hasn't happened in your life that you were loved, no matter what is or isn't happening right now that you are loved, no matter what. So if we could just breathe in and letting this all-seeing, all-knowing Archangel who knows every single thing about you and loves you unconditionally to surround you with that space. And what we might notice in that space is a context. So let's just breathe into that. And Melanie, what do you notice in that 20 feet?
It feels like bliss.
Mm-hmm.
I feel safe. I feel seen. But there's a sense of power,
Mm-hmm.
electricity, a sense of unlimited possibility. Like we were talking about earlier, I really feel it.
Okay. And if we could just notice and give space, what would your body or your spirit want to say out loud as an affirmation right now?
I am huge. I am all light and love. There are no limits. I am limitless.
Mm-hmm.
We are limitless. The
Mm-hmm.
planet is limitless.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. What else?
I matter.
Mm-hmm. We could all say that one, huh? I matter.
Yes, I matter.
My dreams matter.
My body matters.
Mm. My words matter.
Yes. And no matter what, I am okay.
Mm-hmm.
We are okay.
Beautiful.
All is well.
Good. Fantastic. And let's just do this again. Let's just say again out loud. Thank you, Archangel Michael, for surrounding me with 20 feet of unconditional love.
Thank you, Archangel Michael, for surrounding me with 20 feet of unconditional love.
Fantastic. We'll just breathe into that. And once again, from your heart moving out, in front of you, behind you, to your left, to your right, above you, and below you. And perhaps that we can spread our arms out and just feel the expanse of this. 20 feet's pretty big. And if we can add perhaps opening our eyes, and let's just notice, we'll have our Eckhart Tolle moment here. If we could notice all the matter around you. So the computer, the phone, whatever it is that people are listening to this on, the walls, the ceiling, the car, the trees, other people, pets. Let's notice the space between yourself and all those different objects, all those pieces of matter. Let's just breathe in and notice the space between yourself and those objects. And notice that space is filled with unconditional love. And what I notice is that you could feel it. If you move, you feel that? What do you feel?
I feel limitless love.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. So let's just breathe into that. And what we're doing, and this is for empaths, that we are influencing our environment as opposed to reacting to our environment or coping with our environment, that we're choosing the energy that is here. So if we do that in a pandemic where people are home, that there's a space of freedom in that, and that everyone benefits from that, creating more harmony, creating more coherence, creating more peace. How does that feel to you?
Wow. Feels like a gift. It feels so true. It feels so comforting. And it
Mm-hmm.
feels so grounded in this idea of choice that you were talking about at the beginning of this episode, that we really do have a choice. And
Mm-hmm.
I just love this sense, this knowing in this moment from this, that we can choose to feel this spaciousness and feel this love in any moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. And I think it's worth saying of to interrupt our narrative around spirituality, which is only for some people, and we could dismiss that and recognize that we all have this ability to tap in, and it works like a muscle. And if right now for people who just did that are feeling just a hint of something, that's great, you know?
Yes.
And if you're feeling nothing, let's keep working the muscle.
Yeah.
Let's just notice that we have a say and our words do matter. And it's safe for us to engage with our words in a space of choice.
What is better than that? Not much.
Not much. So let's use our spiritual manners and let's very simply say out loud, thank you, Archangel Michael.
Thank you, Archangel Michael.
Fantastic. Good. Good work, everyone.
Wow. Thank you so much, Mark.
You're welcome. I think if we could dovetail something that I think is, let me re-say that. If we could take this and dovetail into talking about, we just work with divine masculine energy and divine feminine energy. And we're witnessing right now the end of the old divine masculine, which is shut up, I know more than you. You know, and we're all used to that and we're all fed up with it. But if we could identify, which I think is the pertinent point, of the new divine masculine is a confidence that is inclusive and encouraging. It is, I know who I am, I'm holding a space, and you are included in it. You are welcome in that space. You are embraced in that space, which is a held space, as opposed to insecurity, as opposed to dominance, as opposed to narcissism. That it's a space where there is self-awareness, and in that self-awareness we could take in others as opposed to dictating what is happening.
I know so many women who are ready for that, who are hungry for that, and that
Mm-hmm.
want to be with men and have
Mm-hmm.
men in their lives that are in this space, that are in this new paradigm of the
Mm-hmm.
masculine and the divine masculine. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious, for those who are listening and want to
Mm-hmm.
help support men in these spaces, how would you say that women can be of service to men in helping them uh, be more of the channel of this divine masculine?
To honor kind and conscious men and kind and conscious men will operate differently than let's say unconscious men, and and they will want to get to know who you are. Perhaps in a dating situation, they'll want to get to know who you are before something is decided upon, and just very simply just to get to know people. You know, is there compatibility and such? So there is a different style in place there in the dating realm. In general, it's more than anything a validation of what is it like to make the choice to be kind, to be conscious, to be inclusive, and to recognize the thing that gets missed, I think, is the nobility of men, the kindness and generosity. How I witnessed that perhaps in my own life is I'm acutely aware of, let's say, in a dynamic that I know, a family or a business where someone, or a friendship where someone has passed away, and there is, let's say, um, a wife or children and such, I will step in and check in with that person. I will recognize where there's an absence and help to fill that absence. That's what that might look like. But also just holding space and not being dogmatic, listening, you know. I know a lot, but not being a know-it-all, you know, and inquiring. But in the spiritual work, where this lands is having a held space. And in held space, you've been to multiple workshops that I've done, I invite people to share what is their intention and have them share at the end or during it. So people have a voice, and to, especially in a spiritual context, to articulate their experience, to put words to a spiritual experience.
What does the divine masculine want in the divine feminine?
Truth, authenticity, a lack of artifice, and substance. An ability to be seen and be heard, and to see and hear others without without artifice, I would say, without this show. You know, we do have rituals, we do have archetypal things of how men act and how women act, and that is shifting. And we're used to this very dominant, like, hey, I'm Mark, you know, that kind of thing. And that perhaps doesn't work anymore. Perhaps it does.
That's
But
so not you, by the way.
I know, like, hi. But just very simply a space of perhaps what is emerging is a lack of aggression, and not leading with aggression, but with the confidence that we spoke about of creating a held space of like, hi, this is who I am. I'm here. I'd like to get to know you. Or we have this shared interest. Let's do this activity together. You know?
And I know you work with women and men, and I'm curious for the women.
Mostly women. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The women that you work with, what do you see are like the common struggles that they're facing that brings them to work with the angels through you and go on this journey?
With men, it's knocking on closed doors, or you know, the pattern that still exists, and it's unfortunate and it's changing, is that unconscious men get partnered with and get validated with women's time, attention, love, and bodies, and eggs, you know, and that's the thing that's changing. So just that's the main thing that happens, and that's the pattern that we're shifting, which is the advocacy for recognizing kind and conscious men who might be more soft-spoken and such. But your question was, what are the women looking for?
Well, what are the women struggling with generally when they?
Oh, generally, confidence, a voice, you know, a sense of worth, a sense of mattering, and especially a sense of being heard, and the reconciliation between desires and social roles. And we live in an era where perhaps we could release the rules of the past, and the rules might contain words like, by the time you're 30 you should, by the time you're 40 you should, by the time you're 50, you know, and all those things are out, they're irrelevant right now. And why is time is different. Our engagement with time, our social markers are different right now, where we're not done, you know. And so it's in the absence of rules, we get into a space of affinity and desire, like what feels good to us, what do we want to have happen, and let's focus on allowing that to happen and recognizing our value. So worth, what we mentioned earlier, as being a core wound, worth is the underpinning of all of that, you know, and just seeing how worth has been eroded or consciously interrupted or undermined for centuries, you know.
What do you think now, in particular, as a time, a challenging moment for so many with COVID-19 and quarantine?
Mm-hmm.
What is it offering women with regards to their worthiness and really being able to move through this and have a different experience and a different belief inside?
To recognize the power of choice, the power of compassion, the power of kindness, the power of nurturing, and the power of comprehending that we are visioning ourselves and speaking ourselves into a future. And that we could look at the context of this virus, looking toward China and the wave they had there, looking toward France and Italy for what is happening there. My former wife is French. I'm in touch with her every day during this, and just seeing what is happening there and how they're handling it and the model that is present. And maybe they're a month and a half ahead of us. And just seeing, well, there's a context for this. This will end at some point. But just seeing, what is it like to innovate in our lives right now, for men and for women, and to let something different happen, to recognize with the interruption of our normal patterns and with what that has brought forward, where we can dig deeper and do some kind of exploration around expansion to make our worlds bigger. Is that answering your question?
Yeah, and I know that you do work specifically around vows that people have taken in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that that's really powerful.
Yeah, it's potent right now. Don't exactly know why, but if we think of the history of disease in the world, and the most recent one that got our attention was the AIDS epidemic, but more specifically the 1918 Spanish flu, which killed 50 million people on the planet in different waves. If we think of our ancestors and inherited trauma, it's more than likely that all of our ancestors knew someone who died, or knew someone who was sick, or took action similar to what we're doing now. And so there's a trigger in that with ancestral trauma and such. So why don't we take a moment and do some vow clearing, okay?
Yeah.
Let me just talk about that for a moment. So a vow is something that would have been taken in this lifetime, in our past lives, or that were taken by our ancestors. And let's say in a past life or in your ancestry, there was someone who was a monk or a nun or a priest. What vows, Melanie, do you think they would have taken?
Celibacy?
Celibacy. What else? Poverty?
Yes, for sure.
Suffering?
Yeah.
Silence?
Yeah.
Fun weekend in Vegas, huh? Yeah.
Oh, in fact, I know that I had a cardinal in the Roman Catholic Church is a descendant of my lineage.
Really? Mm-hmm.
Yep.
How about that? Wow.
There
So
you go.
there it is. There it is. So let's clear that. And what we'll do is we'll work with Archangel Michael and we'll say the vows that we're releasing out loud as an issuing a denial. I release this. And then, so we'll release a bunch of vows and I'll ask you to say them out loud. And we can all do this. We can all say them out loud. And then we'll affirm the opposite. So for releasing a vow of poverty, we will at the end affirm, I am abundant. I am prosperous.
Beautiful.
So do a bunch of releasing, then a bunch of affirmations. Okay?
Yep.
Good. Let's just take in a breath. And if we could all say out loud, thank you, Archangel Michael, for being with me.
Thank you, Archangel Michael, for being with me.
I surrender to you
I surrender to you
all limiting vows
all limiting vows
that I might have taken
that I might have taken
in this lifetime,
in this lifetime,
in past lives,
in past lives,
or that were taken by my ancestors.
or that were taken by my ancestors.
I surrender to you
I surrender to you
all vows of
all vows of
suffering,
suffering,
servitude,
servitude,
silence,
silence,
slavery,
slavery,
sexual slavery,
sexual slavery,
punishment,
punishment,
aggression,
aggression,
self-punishment,
self-punishment,
poverty,
poverty,
lack,
lack,
limitation,
limitation,
fear,
fear,
anger,
anger,
blame,
blame,
resentment,
resentment,
unworthiness,
unworthiness,
belief in curses,
belief in curses,
belief in superstition,
belief in superstition,
belief in fate,
belief in fate,
the belief that I will only receive my good when I'm dead,
the belief that I will only receive my good when I'm dead,
insignificance,
insignificance,
unforgiveness,
unforgiveness,
and fear.
and fear.
Good. Let's just take in a breath. Melanie, can you think of any vows that haven't been said that might surface for you?
Betrayal,
Betrayal. Good one. What else?
abandonment,
Abandonment.
mm.
Anything else?
Those are the two that come up.
Cool. Those are good ones. Thanks for chiming in with that. Let's just take in a breath. Let's say out loud, Michael, I surrender all of this to you.
Michael, I surrender all of this to you.
Good. We'll just breathe in and just let him take all of that in all directions of time. Wonderful. Let's just take a refreshing breath. And let's say our names out loud. I am Mark.
I am Melanie.
I'm a conscious adult.
I'm a conscious adult.
I am free.
I am free.
I am abundant.
I am abundant.
I am prosperous.
I am prosperous.
I am loved.
I am loved.
I am peace.
I am peace.
I am creative.
I am creative.
I could do whatever I want.
I could do whatever I want.
I'm right on time.
I'm right on time.
I'm open to healthy partnership.
I'm open to healthy partnership.
I'm available to my highest good.
I'm available to my highest good.
I am right on time.
I'm right on time.
Good. Let's just breathe into all that. And Melanie, what else would you want to say out loud as an affirmation?
Mm. Mm. I trust all is well in my life.
Mm-hmm. I trust all is well in my life.
I am seen, heard, and held.
I am seen, heard, and held.
I matter.
I matter.
I am connected to all that is.
I am connected to all others.
I am safe.
I am safe.
And I am love, of course.
I am love.
Yes.
Wonderful. Let's just breathe into all that. And let's place our attention on Archangel Michael. And Melanie, what do you notice there?
His arms are open wide to me, and he has them placed on my upper arms, holding me.
Okay, great. So if we could just breathe in to that physical connection, perhaps if we can all breathe into that, whether that's what Melanie's feeling of his hands on your arms, a hug, a handshake, his hand on your heart, whether we feel that, see that, hear that, or know that, whether it's subtle or a flash or overt. Let's breathe into this contact with that angel. And if we could say out loud, thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Michael.
And Michael, what would you like me to know?
Michael, what would you like me to know?
And we'll just breathe into that. And whether we feel it, see it, hear it, or know it, let's trust that there'll be one piece of guidance, which might be a confirmation, might be a reminder. Let's just breathe in and notice what comes. Wonderful. What do you notice there, Melanie?
He pulled me in and held me. He's holding me, giving me a hug.
Great. Wonderful.
And I feel so solid and so unshakably just grounded and loved.
Fantastic. And if we could just say out loud to him, I feel all that.
I feel all that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Let's just breathe in. Let's allow this connection to continue and to deepen. And if we could feel what we're doing right now is developing and nurturing and increasing our relationship with Archangel Michael. So moving it outside of a concept into an experience. How's that feel?
So good.
Yeah. So what do you know to be true right now?
Oh, I am connected to all that is. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
he is with me, and the angels are with me no matter what.
Mm-hmm. They're not human. They don't judge.
Everything feels so big and so wide. I expanded my energy field and I felt the love, that 20 feet of love. And then I heard my mom sneeze.
Mm-hmm.
She's in a room somewhere else far away from me. And I just felt like, oh, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
there it is.
Mm-hmm.
There it is.
Mm-hmm.
The presence of love is and energy, and the angels is, yeah, it has no limits.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. So why don't we just take in a breath and trust this connection, trust this moment, and let this moment continue. And let's notice what it's like to come back into being fully conscious, fully here, fully present, and let Michael continue to be with us. So we're integrating, that we could place our attention where we want, go about our days, and to feel this connection continuing. And that piece of integration is where things become very interesting. In terms of releasing this, yes, it helps for us to focus, helps for us to have sustained focus. There's also a space to do that, have that experience, and then letting it carry over into our day.
I feel an effortlessness in this. There's a sense of ease, like the heavy lifting, the burden.
Mm-hmm.
Like we did that in the very beginning of the episode where
Mm-hmm.
Michael took off everything.
Mm-hmm.
Feels like it's really connected to that there's this effortless flow, this wave, this channel of this abundant love, this divine love, this unconditional love and ease that it takes
Mm-hmm.
the heaviness, especially of what's going on right now in the world. It dissolves it.
Yeah, yeah. And then this is the thing where this is this space where we could see what's actually happening.
Yeah. Very different than what's
Very different.
in front of
Very
us on the internet, on the news, all of that.
which is bad news, and it's designed to scare us. And so we could perhaps, in this space of expansion, we could take a moment to look at the folks who are dedicated to being unconscious or being in a trance right now and not judge them, but to see they're making a choice. And that we could hold a space and cultivate that space even more. So when that trance ends, that we're not going, you're a jerk, that we're in a space like, I understand you are in a trance. Here's life. And you're welcome to join us in life.
Yeah.
That space of unity, that
Wholeheartedly.
space of vision. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mark.
You're welcome. This has been really fun.
It's so fun. I'm kind of surprised I could even be with it, with all the angel energy and talking to you.
I know, but this is the thing I think is this is the thing. Our bodies know how this energy works, and our bodies love it. And we live in such a mental time that we think we have to think everything through. We're using words to connect with an angel, and that angel connects right with us, and our bodies and our hearts know exactly what's there in that.
I had thoughts during this interview about things I wanted to bring up, and I thought them, and then a few seconds later, you spoke about it.
Chicken or the egg, huh?
It happened many times, and I the whole time was just like, wow, oh, There's
Well,
such a connection there
yes, but what do you think is actually happening there?
that we're speaking to each other on another level.
Yeah, and we have
The angels.
this really nice angel to help out,
Yeah.
where we are united in that. And it's human beings do really, really well when we unite,
Mm,
when we work together.
yes.
If we think of coming back to unconditional love, which is so every single thing that's known about us is loved. And the places that we might like, oh, this bad thing happened in 1997, that means that da, 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 da. That's a story. And if we could recognize right now that we are loved, what do we want to have happen? How quickly can we expand our point of view? How quickly can we connect with an angel or a guide and let something different happen? That's interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
If someone listening wants to have that experience personally with you, wants to have a one-on-one session, get in touch, how would they do that, Mark?
To go to my website, which is markmezadourian.com, which is MarkMezadourian, and everything is there. There's events listed, and there's lots of free things. There's lots of free recordings and such, including recent calls that we've done in health spaces. And there's just spaces to connect. There's things on YouTube, and but I do lots of groups and individual sessions, either 15 minutes, a half hour, or an hour. And those are affordable. And there's space just to work and to engage.
Wonderful. And all of that will also be in the show notes
Mm-hmm.
down below the episode so people can find out more. And this has been incredible. Again, just thank you so much. I really feel like this is such an important message for this time. And I am so grateful you came on the show today.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the invitation and you creating a health space for us to work in. And thank you to everyone for listening and for engaging.
Thank you, angels.
Thank you, angels. Yes.
Bye for now.
Thank you.